Have you ever noticed that some people just vanish? No scandals, no explanations. They simply disappear from the noise of the world. They leave the networks, the groups, the conversations. It's not a breakdown. It's a silent decision. A kind of disappearance that doesn't come from pain, but from clarity. As if something inside them said, "Enough. I've seen enough." What's curious is that this phenomenon isn't new. It's just more visible now. More and more people are feeling an inner pull to step away from chaos, superficiality, and collective performance. They're not running from life, but from the noise. They sense that something is deeply wrong with how the world works. Empty relationships, copied opinions, manufactured emotions. It's like waking up in the middle of a theater and realizing everyone is still reading their lines.
And that's when the conflict begins. Because once you awaken, you no longer fit into ordinary conversations or the roles you once accepted. The more you try to pretend nothing has changed, the heavier it feels. Until one day, without drama, you simply walk away. But that departure isn't the end. It's the beginning of something much greater. Because now the true awakening is about to begin. Awakening isn't a poetic metaphor. It's a brutal rupture with everything you believed was real. It's the moment the veil falls and you see that most people live in a trance, repeating phrases, defending ideas that were never theirs, and calling it normal life. It's the instant when illusion cracks and truth enters like light into a dark room. From that point on, there's no going back.
And the strangest part is that nothing around you changes, yet everything inside you does. The same people, the same places, the same conversations suddenly feel theatrical, artificial, rehearsed. You start noticing the energy behind words, the fear disguised as confidence, the anxiety hidden behind smiles. It's as if the world has lost its color, or maybe you've just begun to see in another frequency. That's the true meaning of waking up, realizing that much of modern life is a shared dream. And the more awake you become, the more you see how deeply asleep you were. But this clarity comes with a price, because awakening doesn't just bring wisdom, it brings discomfort. And that's when everything shifts. Because seeing too much is the first step toward never being able to unsee.
It's like walking out of a movie theater after hours immersed in the film. And when you face the daylight, realizing it was all just shadows and projections. At first, you try to go back. You try to sit down again, laugh at the same jokes, comment on the same scenes. But something in you already knows it's no longer real. The spell is broken, and what once felt like entertainment now feels empty. That's what awakening feels like. The world looks the same, but the artificial glow no longer convinces you. Conversations go in circles, opinions sound rehearsed, and the chase for approval feels absurd. It's like pretending to sleep after your eyes have already opened. You can close them again, but awareness won't return to darkness. And this is where the real conflict begins. When awakening pulls you away from the stage where everyone else is still acting. Because the more you try to fit in, the more you realize how far outside the script you've wandered. And then comes the question that changes everything. What happens when you're the only one awake in a world that's still dreaming? Society operates through a silent pact. Everyone pretends to believe the same things. They pretend success equals status, happiness equals appearance, and the system is fair. It's a collective theater where everyone has a role, and those who step off script become a threat. Because when someone breaks the illusion and says, "This is all fake," the show loses its meaning, and no one wants to watch the stage collapse. That invisible agreement keeps the world standing, but also keeps it asleep. People defend ideas that aren't theirs, get offended over causes they don't understand, and follow rules they never questioned. It's a choreography of masks, a dance of egos that must continue at any cost. And the awakened ones begin to see the strings holding it all together. And once you see them, you can't unsee. And when you see too much, your presence becomes uncomfortable. The looks change, the conversations freeze, the bonds weaken, because you're no longer playing the character they expect. And in that moment, the defining choice appears. Keep acting or walk off the stage for good.
Seeing truth has a cost, and it's usually steep. When you awaken, you realize most debates, arguments, and judgments are just masked distractions. People aren't fighting for causes. They're running from themselves. Behind every fiery speech lies fear. Behind every strong opinion, a hunger for meaning. And realizing this feels like watching the collapse of an illusion you helped build. The awakened see what others avoid. Anger that's really unhealed pain. Success that's really hidden emptiness. Love that's really possession disguised as affection. Everything gains a layer of truth that's hard to bear. And while the world keeps spinning, they grow tired of participating in the collective play. The body is present, but the soul can no longer endure the noise.
Then silence begins to call, a desire to retreat not from hatred, but from exhaustion. Speaking starts to feel pointless, explaining a waste of energy. And the only path left is withdrawal, not as escape, but as spiritual self-preservation. Because there comes a point when staying awake hurts more than falling asleep, and that's when the disappearance begins. The disappearance doesn't happen all at once. It's gradual, almost invisible. First, you feel the urge to be silent, to stop responding, to stop explaining. Then, social media loses meaning. Gatherings turn into chores, and conversations sound like static. Without announcement, you drift away. No drama, no conflict, just the exhaustion of pretending nothing changed when everything already has.
You realize most interactions are theater. People performing happiness, success, stability. And you no longer know how to act. Your eyes can't sustain the illusion. Your voice no longer fits the script. Slowly, the circle closes, and silence becomes more honest than any dialogue. Absence starts to feel truer than presence. But this vanishing isn't defeat. It's purification. It's the soul detoxing from the need to be seen, accepted, validated. It's consciousness seeking fresh air after years of breathing smoke. And the strange part is, the moment you disappear from the world, you finally start to appear to yourself. Yet what comes after this exile is something few have the courage to face.
Solitude terrifies those who have never met themselves. But for the awakened, it becomes medicine. It's where the world's noise stops. And for the first time, silence stops being empty. It becomes presence. You begin to hear what was once drowned out. Your own thoughts, your true voice, your forgotten essence. It's a homecoming after years of living outside yourself. Being alone stops feeling like punishment and turns into privilege, because you realize solitude isn't the absence of people, it's the absence of falsehood. It's where the excess of outside opinions loses power and your clarity takes root. There, between silence and introspection, you understand how surrounded you were, yet how rarely you were truly seen. Being alone becomes synonymous with being whole. And it's in that fertile ground of solitude that the real process begins. Because disappearance isn't an ending, it's metamorphosis. And what emerges from this retreat isn't weakness, it's strength in its purest form. But for that to happen, you must endure the hardest stage, the one where everything inside you dissolves to make room for what's real. Every awakening requires a time of withdrawal, what I call the hermit phase. It's when you retreat from the world not to escape, but to rebuild. Like the caterpillar entering the cocoon, you withdraw to transform. Inside, everything unravels. Beliefs, identities, roles. It's painful, lonely, and yet inevitable. No rebirth happens without a symbolic death first.
During this phase, the mind fights back. It wants to return to old rhythms, old distractions, old certainties. But something in you no longer fits them. It's the beginning of a spiritual detox. You start facing silence, shadows, and wounds you've long avoided. You discover that the true hell isn't out there. It's inside, waiting to be illuminated by awareness. And the deeper you go, the more you see that isolation isn't punishment. It's preparation. It's the space where you learn to hold your truth without needing an audience. And when the cocoon finally breaks, what emerges isn't the same being who entered. It's someone lighter, clearer, authentic, ready for the next step, the return. But not just any return, the return of someone transformed.
The return isn't a comeback to the old world. It's a crossing. You don't return to play the game, but to observe the board with new eyes. You no longer seek to convince, compete, or prove anything. Your very presence becomes a quiet declaration. I've seen what's behind the curtain. And that's enough, because after awakening, even silence speaks louder than words. Now you walk between two worlds, illusion and lucidity. You live among those still asleep, but refuse to be pulled back into their dream. You act differently, think differently, breathe differently. Urgency loses meaning, conflict loses flavor, and truth becomes your only compass. It's the state of one who lives on the edge, present yet unbound.
And it's here that purpose arises. Some return to teach, others to inspire simply by being. They are silent beacons. They don't persuade, they illuminate. By mere example, they reveal another way of being. And that's when the story flips. Those who once disappeared now become guides for those beginning to awaken. And this is where it all reveals itself. Disappearing was never about vanishing. It was about finding yourself. When you feel that pull to withdraw, it's not weakness, it's evolution. It's your soul asking for space to breathe, your consciousness demanding silence to bloom. The world keeps screaming, but you finally understand that real awakening happens in quiet.
So don't fight it. Don't force yourself to stay where truth no longer lives. Withdrawal isn't selfishness. It's loyalty to your essence. It's proof that you're not running from life, but from the distractions that keep you from truly living it. Reclusion is the beginning of rebirth. Because disappearing is an ancient rite. It's the path every awakened consciousness must walk. The caterpillar must dissolve to become the butterfly. The seed must rot in the dark before becoming a tree. And you must lose yourself for a while to find yourself completely. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of a new clarity.